Deadline day is fast approaching. Tomorrow night, of course. I think it's 11 p.m. It cuts off. It's a weird one this year because it's almost a little bit alien for us as West Ham fans because most of our business is done. You know what I mean? It's we're in a pretty strong position. All I'm saying is if it's shut now, I wouldn't be going, oh my God, it's a disaster. Whereas most seasons, it always feels like we leave a lot of our business very late. We always need sort of 3 or 4 in the last few days, and we're trying to scramble to get them done, and it just seems a real mess, doesn't it? And then inevitably we wake up disappointed. Well, a lot of the time we do, especially when it comes to January, at least anyway. But this time round, we just feel we're very much on the front foot. We've got the majority of our business done. You'd sort of say, 95% of our business is now done. So it's a nice feeling. But that's not to say that we've not got nothing to do. It's important. We've still got things to get done before it shuts. And one of the first things is getting rid of some players. We've got to clear the decks because at the end of the day, we've got players there that we need to move on. Kurt Zouma being the most obvious and the closest to going at the moment. So we've got an update anyway from ExWHUEmployee. So I'm still going to sort of go through what he's provided at the moment. So Kurt Zuma's had his medical, successful, we understand it. I don't know how, but apparently, I don't know who's doing that medical, but apparently he is, fit as a fiddle. Or he's not fit as a fiddle because West Ham have got to subsidise his wages. So I think that's why he's fit as a fiddle, West Ham. But I think we've got to pay around half. I don't know exactly, but I think it's quite a fair amount, I think. That's what we understand. I haven't got the details of it yet, but anyway, West Ham are going to be paying a fair amount of his wages for this deal, so we're going to give him a lump sum to get rid of him. But it gets him off our books, and then that frees up wages for other players. So that's really important. So I think it's Al Aroba that he's going to in Saudi Arabia. Again, no fee involved. I mean, it's understandable considering his injury situation with his knees. I mean, the player could not walk after playing 45 minutes in pre-season against Dagenham and Redbridge. He was on ice packs. He was hobbling around after that. So he's done. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised he's still playing. You know what I mean? He's in that bad a state. But regardless of that, I've always got fond memories of Zouma as a West Ham player. He's been there for 3 seasons, and a couple of them have been amazing. So no, I think he's been a great defender for us, really. But last season, you could see that he was really, really struggling. But yeah, so Kurt Zouma, and we understand it's going to be likely to be completed today. So that one, I'm pretty sure that's going to be sorted out. So that's good news. Nine for good. I've got. I know I feel like I repeat myself on him. He's one that I'm just so disappointed in. I had such high hopes for Gerd at West Ham. I think he's a great player, great ability. Good on the ball. Remember when he first started? You know what I mean? He had so much promise, and we're going, God, he looks a real talent. But it just feels like he's fallen away, and it's a shame. And it seems like his wants and needs are a bit off from what I was expecting from him. I thought that this was a really big move for him, and he wanted to really establish himself as a Premier League player. And it just seems now that he just wants to move to Saudi because he wants a better salary. Look, it's each their own. Do you know what I mean? It's up to him, and fair play if that's what he wants to go and do. It's up to him. But personally, I think for someone of his ability, age, and where he could be playing. I'm not just talking about West Ham. I'm talking about other Premier League sides and across Europe, etc. It's just sad that that's the route he wants to go down, but that is the route he wants to go down. So I think it's El Etihad who are the ones that are close to signing him or closest at the moment. We understand he's had a few offers from clubs across Europe. We've got it from Spain, Portugal, Germany, and France. But he's not interested, apparently. I think there was talk as well in the press of Wolves being interested in the Gerd, possibly looking at a loan with obligation to buy. Again, the player's not interested. I think he's just going for the pound note. I think that's what it sounds like to me. I might be wrong. I might be doing a bit of disservice here, but that's what it looks like, and that's what it sounds like. So, Naya for Gerd, I expect will leave. He's not featured at all for Lopetegui, is he? Even in the Carabao Cup last night. I'm going to come to that. I've got a video later about the Carabao Cup. All right, that'll come up a bit tomorrow. I'll do something on that. But I'll talk about the game and also a couple of issues I've got with the draw situation, and I'll talk about that later. But Yeah, so I think the fact that Agurd wasn't in the squad for that game, speaks volumes, doesn't it? Absolute volumes. That he's just not part of the plans here. So I expect that Kurt Zuma, a 9 for Agurd, will be leaving. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. So Zuma's the closest, but Agurd, I'm pretty sure, will be on his way. And as I say, Saudi's looking the most likely destination for him at the moment, because that is what the player wants. Quite telling, isn't it? Having a Zuma and a Agurd go. I mean, that's the David Moyes pairing. That's the David Moyes centre-back pairing, both going straight away. So, I mean, that happens, with a new manager or head coach, whatever you want to call it. So, expected. But yeah, it's quite fitting, isn't it? It's quite a big moment having, our two main centre-backs from last season are now gone. And obviously now we've got our two new, well, when I say two new, I mean, they are two, Kilman and Todibo. But obviously at the moment, Todibo's got to catch up on his match fitness at the moment, which is quite evident, I felt, last night against Bournemouth. So, yeah, next one is Max Cornet. So, again, I think this is a player that's going to go. We understand at the moment that Southampton are the most likely destination at this stage, but he has got other options as well. I think Wolves and Nottingham Forest, Burnley, and even Everton are apparently interested in him. There's also other clubs across Europe, but at the moment, it's looking more likely that Southampton are going to be they're the front runners at the moment to land Cornet. I mean, a disastrous signing for all parties. He needs to leave West Ham. He's got, again, no future at West Ham. He needs to move on. And I think it'd be good for him, good for West Ham. We need to get him off the books. Again, though, I think we're going to have to pay something towards maybe letting him go. It's a real mess. These not good. Zuma's a different thing for me, all right? I know we paid, 30 million, I think, for Zuma. But Zuma's performed. He's been a big player for West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Over those years, it's not as if he's been a disaster. He's been a bloody great defender for us. It's only, of the last period of his time at West Ham where he's become plagued with injury. Well, I wouldn't say plagued with injury, but you could just see how much he was struggling to recover from games of his knees, etc. Whereas Cornet's totally different. I mean, Cornet's just not done anything. He's been a total disaster from day one. And it's one that I just want to see the back off now. And again, another one disappointed in, because I was buzzing when we got him in. I thought it was a really clever signing, but hasn't worked out. But at the moment, it looks like he's going to be going to Southampton, but let's wait and see. James Ward-Prowse is one we've talked about as well. There is interest, a lot of rumours about Southampton that they'll be keen to bring him back. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Cornet and Ward-Prowse both going at the same time. I'm not convinced on James Ward-Prowse leaving. X's update basically says that if West Ham get an offer in that works for us, then we possibly will, look at it and seriously consider it, or even allow it to go through. But it has to work for West Ham. But we're not actively, desperately trying to sell him. And the fact he featured for under Lopetegui in the Carabao Cup kind of suggests that he is kind of considered part of the plans here, whether it not be, I'm not saying like a first team regular starter, but part of the squad at least. Whether he wants that, I wouldn't say that he is. I'd be sad to see Ward-Prowse go, actually, if it happens. I'm not saying that he's, a world-class, oh my God, well, how will we cope without him kind of thing. But do you know what I mean? I think he works hard. He seems a decent fella. And I actually think I think his first season, he was all right. Oh, I know he hasn't done anything too spectacular, but I thought he worked hard, scored some good goals for us when needed. Obviously, provided some assists as well. I really have no issues with him at all. I would have no issues with him staying, isn't what I'm trying to say. But it does seem that there's a potential there for him to go. Danny Ings is a weird one. We desperately want to get rid of him. We really want him gone. So at the moment, is what we're saying here that there is. I'm just trying to quick read here. Apparently, he turned down a move to Southampton. There's clubs across Europe, and there's a couple of Premier League and Championship clubs that are interested in Danny Ings. But apparently, he wants to remain at West Ham. I mean, I don't know. It's what we keep hearing. He's quite content for his role at the club and wants to fight for his position. It's a strange one. I'm surprised that's the case. I considering the fact that Danny Ings is a little bit of a journeyman, do you know what I mean? He kind of gets about, and it feels like he will move to progress his career where he can and get playing. I've always felt that with him anyway. So I find it strange now he's at West Ham. He just wants to sit on the bench. He's quite happy just to do that. That doesn't feel right to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens with Danny Ings. I mean, it's quite a few, isn't it, players that we've got to try and get rid of here in a short space of time. But as I say, I think Kurt Zuma and Agurd are definitely the most likely at the moment. And I'd say after that, it's probably Max Cornet. Danny Ings and James Ward-Prowse, I'd say at this stage, are sort of, unsure. And that's where we kind of are, really. I think that the injury to Aaron Creswell last night, he sustained that in the pre-match warm-up, is going to hamper academy moves apparently because Ollie Scholes was expected to go on loan, and I think West Ham are sort of now a little bit all not sure because of the injury to Creswell. I'm not quite sure exactly what's happened there, but yeah, it's quite interesting. Now let's talk about the incomings. That's more exciting, isn't it? Carlos Soler, I think, is the going to happen. I'm pretty sure of that, actually. I think that, as far as we understand it, the deal's done, all in place. It's just a case of now it's sort of being formalised and moving through. West Ham have sort of held back on it slightly because we're waiting to sell players, bring some more money in. I think it's just, we're trying to be a bit savvy financial, fair play wise. You know what I mean? We want to be a little bit careful, make sure we've got our players out and go, right, let's get this deal done, rather than sort of get him in and then we really struggle to like get rid of. You know what I mean? I do understand the position of the club, but we understand it because it's going to be the view of being a loan with an option or obligation to buy next season. It will be in next year's budget anyway. But I think West Ham just want to be a little bit careful and focus really first of all on getting players out and then get that one concluded. But that being said, I still think that's going to happen. We understand the player wants to move, so and we need him. I think it's been quite evident we need that extra creative midfielder in the middle there. We do need it, and someone that's a bit more suited to that role. So it's going to be an interesting one. But as I say, my confidence level's up quite high with that. X has provided an update on John Duran, and he's basically said that the club are saying there's a 1% chance we get Duran. I think it's more than that. I just think it's more. I don't think that's over yet. I don't think the Duran stuff over. I'm not saying I'm not confident. I'm not sitting there going, yeah, I think that's going to happen. I just get the feeling something else is going to happen in this transfer window. Do you know what I mean? I just get the feeling that something's going to happen, that we're going to end up getting someone, it might be Duran, it might be someone else. Do you know what I mean? I kind of feel it. Because I don't know about you, and I really want to be forgiven for this because I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong here. Not convinced on Fulkrug at the moment. Not overly convinced. And I don't mean that. Let's get this right, because I did praise him in the last video, so I want to get this right. Because I was like, didn't you say the opposite? I like him. I think he looks a good player. I think he works hard. He's a bully. All that kind of stuff. And I'm not knocking the player. But the thing is, right, when you look at West Ham, you think to yourself, right, we need someone who's going to run the champ. We need an Antonio kind of esque player, don't we, to play that kind of position, to bully, to if they're going to play on their own. I get the feeling Fulkrug needs that support, and that's sort of what we need to work around him, which is understandable. But I just feel like we've said this before. Didn't we say this about the last couple of strikers we've had? Just, I don't know. My concern levels gone up a little bit after watching him against Bournemouth, because I was expecting him to. I was excited to see what he could bring, but it didn't quite happen. And as I say, look, he's only just joined the club, so I'm not having please don't think I'm having a pop. My point is, I'm not convinced we've got enough there in terms of Fulkrug and Antonio. I just don't. That's not for me enough to convince me that we've got the strike force to fire us into a top 6, top 7 position this season where we want to be finishing high for European football. I'm just not sold on it. So I do wonder if I'm not convinced, and you may be convinced. You might go, Mark, no, we've got it sorted. We don't need anybody else. And if that's the case, you feel, let me know. Add the comments, no problem. But I've got this feeling that we need more. Do you know what I mean? I do get that feeling we need a bit more there. So I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham are going to try and get more business done. But whether we do or not, who knows? We've been told, obviously, of course, that there's going to be this surprise. But I think the surprise, what X has made it very clear, what he's talking about when he said there's going to be this sort of surprise West Ham are hoping to do, is more to do with the fact that other clubs are going to have to offload or going to be bringing players in, and then suddenly going to have to offload some, and we might have an opportunity there. I think that's what is the surprise element, not as if there's a player that's waiting. But it could be Duran, couldn't it? It could be Duran. I'm still not convinced that that's done yet. I don't think that's over. But yeah, there's going to be some outgoings. There's going to be some incomings. I think at least one. I think Castle will happen. But I think there's also going to be potentially a little bit more to get excited about coming your minds.